Welcome to my YouTube, no I'm just kidding. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Booktician. And today we're gonna do a very ambitious video. This video will be focused on me talking about the 170 plus books I read from January to July. I'm gonna try to do full July, but I might do just half July, but I just want to talk about these books rather briefly, mention whatever. There won't be a lot of description about these books. I'm just going to tier rank them based on how I feel in that moment. My Patreons helped pick this one, so shout out to y'all. So I'm excited to get into it as I'm sitting here tying. So without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, y'all, now we're gonna get started. It took me some time to figure this out. I will say the setup of this tier ranking is a little bit different, and I would say even better than the tier ranking or the first tier ranking that I did a little while ago, probably over a year or two ago. I'll put the links to that or put the card somewhere on this video. So let's get into it. I wanted this video just to be as fun as possible. So I put No Crumbs as the toppest tier, and pretty much what No Crumbs is, you know, the book did everything that I wanted it to do. I understood everything that was happening. The plot moved along very well in a way that made sense with the characters. It could have been a fave author, whatever. Nostalgia is just books I read just because, you know, I wanted to reconnect with my younger self, or it's something that, you know, I thought that I would have enjoyed as a kid. Whatever the case is, that is why that is there. I'm sorry, somebody is mowing for their lives, so you're just gonna hear that in the background. And then meh is what that is. Most books that I identify as meh have 3 stars. Just because it has 3 stars doesn't mean that it's not a good book to me. It just means that, you know, I got what I needed, and it wasn't earth-shattering and mind-blowing and things like that. Question marks mean that there was something that I felt was really missing from a book, or something that it needed more of, or something that didn't quite fit with my taste of reading and the book. And then It's a No is a book that, you know, on hindsight, now site, whatever site, it turned out to be a no. It's a no. That's what I will be ranking all of these books. I also want to say these books that I will be ranking today, a lot of them are series, so I will be talking about them as series and not individual either comics, volumes, or collected issues. So let's get into it. The first one here is Growing Up Dead in Texas. I wouldn't say the book had any questions. I wouldn't say it's a no. I'm anywhere between No Crumbs and meh. And I'll put meh because I felt like Growing Up Dead in Texas could have been a little longer. Very unreliable narrators or narratives throughout the book. The horror and the suspense pieces about it that I truly gravitate to when I'm looking for certain books to read, this book definitely did it for me. So even though it's in the meh, it was good, but I just wanted more. And I guess I should put it here, actually. I'll put it in the question marks because I wanted more from that book. And as you can see, this ranking may look like hierarchical, but it's really not. And I just put the last one, It's a No, just to put it there. It didn't really matter where any of these would go. The Nancy Drew series, I read quite a few of them. I'm going to put them in nostalgia. I had a friend say that, you know, when she read it, it felt very formulaic. That's my chicken. You hear beeping in the background. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. The Nancy Drew diary series, I've been reading a couple of those a couple months just to, you know, see if this was a book or a series that I would have enjoyed as a kid. And I think that I would have. So I'm just continuing to read it, do that inner child healing, as they say. The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. Left no crumbs. Loved everything about it. I have always been a fan of slashers, so the life-changing manga of tidying up was great. I read the book a couple years ago, and I just felt like I was just consuming a bunch of stuff that I didn't need, so I needed to return back to Marie Kondo, but I thought that I would do it in the form of the manga instead of the novel, so this was very helpful. The Good House, again, left no crumbs. It was lengthy, of course. I like to tell people, you know, it's not a review, it's going to take you on a journey, and it was a journey that I think I needed to be on because the way this author writes her description, it's, you know, I usually don't be like, wow, this writer writes really well. You know, I don't really think of those things. Or when I say really well, it's very subjective on how I am interpreting the text, right? For me, 10 out of review does it for me every time. Creep also left no crumbs. A very creepy book that has a stalker element and just have to do with when romance just goes completely wrong, and you know, when somebody has an addiction that is really taking over their lives and really putting their livelihood in jeopardy. About Love, again, left no crumbs. This was a book club pick for my Patreons a few months ago, and this was by Bell Hooks, and this was a nonfiction that pretty much wrote in very, you know, eye-opening detail of how we view love, what love is, and what love is absolutely not. And you know, Bell Hooks, a gem. So Save Me, I would put meh, only because I like the story. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it in questions. This is by Christina C. Jones, and it's a series about these assassins who are working together to just, you know, end the life of somebody else. And it's a book of 3 of them. There's 3 of them in this book. So it focuses on one character for each book. And even though I enjoyed them so much, I think it's because I'm not really like a hardcore romance reader. A gem. So Save Me, I would put meh, only because I like the story. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it in questions. This is by Christina C. Jones, and it's a series about these assassins who are working together to end the life of somebody else. And it's a book of 3 of them. There's 3 of them in this book. It focuses on one character for each book. And even though I enjoyed them so much, I think it's because I'm not really like a hardcore romance reader. And this was more romance than it was like suspense and thriller. I wanted more thriller and more suspense and less romance. I also am reading a book by a romance author. Murder in G Major, it's meh. I mean, it's a good story. It's a good cozy mystery. I'm finding it hard for them to like really stand out to me. And it's a really good cozy mystery. I don't think that none of y'all shouldn't try it. I definitely would try this series if any of y'all are looking for a cozy mystery. If you just want something that's just gonna be quick paced and you can get through it. Sometimes the audiobooks feel a bit long, and I do feel like this series is a bit long. I would have loved it if it was in a novella format, because I do feel like some parts of these books drag along, but it also felt quick paced at the same time, if that makes sense. So Monster, no crumbs. I read a couple volumes of this year, and it just left no crumbs. I just am truly in love with the story of Dr. Tenma and how he is trying to figure out who is the puppet master killing all of these people who is either looking for him, associated with him. It's just a very interesting manga. And if you have read this, I would love to hear your descriptions below. And this is a psychological thriller manga, by the way. And there are 9 collected volumes, just in case anybody needed to know. The Maidens, upon reflection, I'm gonna say meh. I thought that I really enjoyed it, but now listening to other people reviews, there was things that I did not catch or paid attention to, and you know, those things should have been paid attention to, if that makes sense. I will say the one thing that I did catch immediately, and then in hindsight I was like, I don't know if I like that, is the fact that, you know, there was an inappropriate love interest as far as ages. It felt very groomy to me, and I did not appreciate that. I also want to say that throughout this, I'm going to try to make it as spoiler-free as possible. The Awaken Kingdom is meh. I know, it's N.K. Jemisin. There will not be any slander on this YouTube channel about her at all. However, in all the books that I've read of her, this was not a favorite, is what I'm going to say. You know, I enjoyed it. Love NK, always will. It just wasn't like, you know, the 5th season. It wasn't like The City We Became. You know, it wasn't like, you know, How Long Until Black Future. Those are books that I appreciated and loved more than I loved The Awaken Kingdom, which is some short stories attached to the Inheritance series by N.K. Jemisin. So if you read that series, you would read this series and you would see the similarities because it's in the same world. However, I didn't feel as connected to the stories in Awaken Kingdom as I did in the Inherited series or trilogy. You Should See Me in a Crown was very cute. I guess I should put nostalgia. Romance about a young girl finding her voice and using her voice. Very wrapped up in a bow, cute. Sheets also, even though it was a part of the realm of comic, one of our book club picks, I can't remember which month it was. And I truly enjoyed it. It was Sheets and also Delicates. Let me see if I can get 2 Delicates and put Delicates up there as well. Both of these things were purely for the nostalgia and, just being like, wow, my younger self would have liked these books. I will say for Sheets and Delicates, there's a girl who appeared more in Delicates. And I do know my younger self would have been really annoyed with her at first and then got to know her and would have fallen in love with her. I'm going to put It's a No for Library Wars. There was something about Library Wars that just didn't click for me. It's one of those books that I've been trying to get into. It's a manga. It just didn't do it for me. Also, Dead Silence didn't do it for me. The plot felt very flat. It felt like there were parts of the story when certain characters would talk about their emotional involvement or attachment to whatever it is they are looking for or scared of. And it felt like those sections just drug on for days. And also it didn't help that I listened to this via audiobook and the audio narrator is not a narrator that I like. So that's just honesty. Uzumaki continues to leave no crumbs. It's just one of those books that I truly enjoyed by Junji Ito, and I just really appreciated manga for the horror that it is, because it's definitely that, and it just creeped you out, and I just kept thinking like, wow, to draw all of these spirals and to understand while it's, spiral into horror, just a perfect description of what this book is. Again, this book right here, I know you can barely see it, but it's I think it's called like Feminism is for Everybody. It's another bell hook. I can put it next to her book actually. It just was very informative, and I read Feminism is for Everybody first and then About Love, and About Love helped me understand other concepts that the author said in Feminism is for Everybody, and I really appreciated that callback. Avita Vice, again, left no crumbs, and also the book is called Feed, and it also let me know that maybe I'm into like siren romances. So I've been trying to look for those. I'm always accepting recommendations in the description box below. But that book really did the Lord's work. So again, I already said what I said about Murder in G major. This is Death in D minor, and it's very similar. Now going to the Inheritance trilogy, I love all of them. And to be honest, the last book, even though I'm not a big crier on books, that last one, ooh, I cried. Big girl tears. You know what I mean? I didn't think I would be so attached to some of those characters. It was amazing. I'm gonna put some links to the live shows, because they were live shows about this series. It was hosted by Shay with the Hobbies and Chloe, and I'll put their links below so that you can get into the discussion and like also go and support other channels about their views about this book. I was in live chat, chatting as well, and it was just wow. Like N.K. Jemisin can write a book. She really can write a world and just do it in such a way that you're just like, wow. It was just really good. Also, there is like moments of smut in this book that is really good too. So consensual smut, okay, is what I would say. Those moments were really good. Okay, so when it comes to The Alchemist by GGP, I forgot how to pronounce this author's last name. This was a really good cozy mystery. I'm actually going to bump it up to nostalgia because I think I would have really enjoyed it as a kid. It has a talking gargoyle. It has to do with like food. It's just like this woman, who's living by herself, who's out here trying to solve crime. And I do want to continue this series. I haven't gotten to a time where I can continue it. I do know that all of the audiobooks is on Audible. I don't have a subscription anymore because Audible is really trying to take everybody's pockets. So I need to figure out another way to get more audiobooks so I can finish this series. The Dragon Republic, again, left No Crumbs. This is a political fantasy, and I do not gravitate to them. R.F. Kuang is out here making magic with their fingertips, and the main character continues to go through such character growth, hence me also preferring more character development over plot. And you definitely get like a good mix of that in this book and in this series. I haven't read the third book because I know I'm probably going to read it next year, because it seems like I read one of these once a year. Read Poppy Wars last year, and then read Poppy Wars again this year, and then read Dragon Republic this year, and I probably will read Dragon Republic next year and the third book next year, because I do want to finish this series. It just was really good. I heard that The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is a book that a lot of people love here on Booktube or in the book community, and they say that that is also a political fantasy, and I don't know if I can handle that heartbreak like I handled it in the Poppy Wars. Confessions also left no crumbs. It was a very enjoyable novel. This is a translated piece. It also was a pick for the Literal Dead book club. And let me tell y'all, that book, the twists and turns that you didn't even know was there. There were so many good twists and turns. I think that book was done exceptionally well. The Wife Upstairs, to me, also left no crumbs. I felt like I truly enjoyed it. Just being really unsure of like this man and this dog walker, like it was her job. I just felt like things were moving a bit too fast or maybe too slow. I don't know. There was a lot of people I couldn't trust, and I love reading thrillers where I feel like I don't know who to trust, and then it gets revealed and I feel so shocked, and I'm like, wow, you really did that. You took me on a ride. And I felt like The Wife Upstairs did that. Also, I feel like How to Be Ace also left no crumbs. There were some things that I can't even like articulate right now, but I know there's probably like one or two things I was like, But for the most part, I did feel like this book, this memoir was very good. And I felt that there were some parts of it where it was very relatable. And I would strongly suggest that, you know, if you're trying to educate yourself on different gender identities, gender expressions, people's journey with understanding their gender, I think reading How to Be Ace, a memoir, is a great step to start on that journey. Just memoirs in general really helps you understand other lived experiences. Agent Red, I'm gonna have to say it's gonna be a no. I just felt like there were so many plot holes that I really couldn't get into that book. Lisa Jules, The Night She Disappeared, I really thought I knew what was going on in this book, and that was not true. That was not true at all. So this was set up really well, and it kind of makes me want to see if I should read another Lisa Jewell. Have any of y'all read any other books by Lisa? That would be cool. You can put that in below. But I haven't read anything other than The Night She Disappeared, and I truly enjoyed that thriller. All Is Well by Mona Wad. I was just very confused. Looking back on it, I could not tell you anything about this book. Maybe crumbs, but I just remember being confused. Beloved, no crumbs. No crumbs. Toni Morrison continues, and I mean, you know, ancestor now. Just the writing and how she wrote, so raw and so uncut. What a queen, right? I'm going to take a little drink. We're going to talk about Miles Davis. I'm going to put no crumbs because it was an autobiography, and I just feel really weird saying it was a no and it was that for somebody's, you know, autobiography or somebody's memoir. So I truly wish that I read about Miles Davis more. This was one of the books that I read for It's My Birthday video, and Miles Davis and I shared the same birthday, and we share similar thoughts on progressing like Black folks. And I just thought the humor in the book from his perspective was just top tier. His life, I felt like this was just uncut raw honesty, and it was just so refreshing to read. The Body Keeps the Score is a book that I tend to read this book as a therapist, and it is just reminding you to help me to remind myself and remind the clients that I see of how trauma is translated in the body and how your body remembers. And even if mentally you're like, I have no reason to be freaked out about situation X, but your body, your amygdala already took a picture of it. Your amygdala is already looking for connections, and your amygdala will respond before your brain is able to keep up. And just other different things about understanding yourself neurologically and understanding how trauma is passed on, even generations. So this was a very informative book, and this is my second time reading it, so I read it again this year. Also, Tristan Strong was very great. I thought the hype was just too hype, but no. It's the infusion of ancestral and root magic as like African American that I just truly enjoyed about this series, and I can't wait to read the next one. So out of all of the Rick Riordan Present series that we've been reading this month, myself and Nicole from Who Picked This Book, y'all, this right here, it wasn't that great to me. I gotta be honest about it. I feel like it could have been a bit better. I don't even know how to describe what could have been better. It wasn't that great to me. Their Eyes Was Watching God was a pick that I had for the Black Classics Book Club. And that one, I watched the movie right after I read the book. And even though there were some differences, I enjoyed both of them. And this is a story that I just feel like you just never know what's going to happen to you. And exploring what it is to like be a woman and what that means and how people will view it at this time frame is very interesting. And I like reading books about how authors would write about it. So I really liked this book, and I did give it 5 stars, and I did have also a live discussion about it, and I'll put that in the description box below. So Like a Sister is a book that came out by Kylie Garrett. I rated this book, I think, a 4 stars. It was really good to me. The only thing that was missing is that there is a character, I don't know, I just didn't understand his motive. I put it in a question mark for that reason, even though the book as a whole was very enjoyable. And I will say about Kylie Garrett, what she does really well with her thrillers or her mysteries is how she incorporates humor in it. Thrillers are typically, serious, but I also like when, you add a little bit of humor in your things as well. And it could be because I love a good laugh. That really could be what it is. The romantic agenda to me was phenomenal. It just really got you to understand that there are different ways you can present being asexual, and watching how this girl is pining for her best friend and how she's trying to make her moves. It was very entertaining. There were some moments of sadness, but it wasn't a lot. I just thought it was a really good book. And this is also, I think, a debut novel for this author as well. Invisible Man was, I think, one of the first books I read in the year. And seriously, the best book that I read this year is still top. I don't think any other book has topped this. And I will put my link to me talking about this book in the description box below. Miss Jane Pittman as well, 5 stars. To be honest, there is not a Black classic that I discussed that I don't truly enjoy. And I will put the link to Miss Jane Pittman as well. Unfortunately, because of the headache that I was experiencing, I couldn't really go ahead and do that live show in the way that I wanted to, but I made it a premiere, and hopefully that will generate and continue to generate more conversations, because that is a woman that needs to be discussed. Again, Moriarty Manga, I put the first one here, but I don't even know. I have no idea how many volumes I've read, because I keep reading them chapter by chapter by chapter on Viz Media. And wow, this is one of my favorite mangas of all time. If you don't have Viz Media, download the app right now. Shout out to you, Ashley, for putting Viz Media in my view. Download that app right now and start reading Moriarty right now. Like, loved it. If you are a fan of Sherlock, if you're like, look, I need a more like insidious Sherlock, this is what you need. But it's Moriarty. Sherlock is in it, but it's primarily Moriarty. So just really, it was great. Another book which I felt like left no crumbs was Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab. And let me tell you, I truly needed to hear every word in this book. And this book was written by a Black woman, and she just talked about like how you set your boundaries, what they are. In the back of my bookshelf that you see behind me, but I'm really tiny on the screen so you can't see that well, I have the workbook that comes with it, which is equally informative. And I think that if you are a person who struggles with boundaries, or you have a lot of people in your life who don't know what boundaries are, that is a great book to give to them and give to yourself. The Between, I will also say Left No Crumbs by Tanana Reeve. It was done very well. It was very interesting to read a book that has multiple different time changing elements, and I appreciated that it was Tanana Reeve who wrote it, because when she writes, even though, again, I'll say it again, she tends to write a lot. When she writes things, you know that even if it's like 10 pages of which you might think is fluff, it won't be fluff when you start getting towards those later chapters, because everything is going to play right into what's going on, you know? Then we have The Other Black Girl. I'm just gonna say it's a no for me, and I'm gonna leave it at that, okay? The Drowning Kind, I would say nostalgia, only because like I feel like my 20-year-old self would have really liked this book, because it would have been kind of like an introductory to thriller. It would have really propelled me into the thriller genre, which I think would have been great, even though I'm already deep in it right now. But I just felt like it was just good. The vibes were good to me. It giving you some spooky elements. They did have a lot of suspenseness involving this body of water near this house, and I enjoyed it. So the next book is Jar of Hearts. I would say the same thing about Jar of Hearts. Did the same thing. Just felt like I had a good experience. But I also will say, just putting it in the question mark, is that Jar of Hearts, I've had to read my Storygraph review of this book to remember what the book was about. I'm having a hard time recalling it. So it's kind of reminding me of like All Is Well, is in my recall of the book is not that great. And I would say the same thing for The Nature of Witches. And I just felt like The Nature of Witches dragged on in a lot of parts, and there could have been more about the relationship with the main character and this guy. The Paris Apartment. We all know that's a no for me. Now we're also going to go to right here, which is Something Is Killing the Children. That's what I just put on there. And let me tell you, loved it. I've read several volumes of it this year, and I think I read all of the volumes of it this year, or did I read some last year? I can't remember. And I'm pretty up to date on the last issue that's been posted, and I truly enjoy this series. It is also disturbing, I just want you to know, and there is very gory comic. So if that's not your thing, you know, something killing the kids, killing the children is not something that you want. I'm gonna just say meh for the Charmed manga. It was just like, it was okay. I wish there were more, I guess. If I wanted to put it here, I wish it was more of the manga, so then I can like see if I'm feeling nostalgic about it. But I'm actually going to put it back on nostalgia, because that was the real reason why I read this book. All of Her Little Secrets was done really well. I read this book and I kept thinking like, wow, this is a perfect example of knowing that it doesn't matter what you do and how hard you work. People will always tell you what they think your place in the world is, and you have to prove them wrong. And also remaining true to yourself is like one of the biggest things. So I really appreciated that book for that. For All Time, I'm also going to say No Crumbs. It is a romance by, I think, Shayna Miles, and it also goes in and out of time. And I've said this until I'm blue into the face. If a book have time differences, sign me up. There is something about it that I truly enjoy, and that is what's happening in this story. And you're just following these two characters who just keeps falling in love, you know, time after time after time, watching how they change because of it. It was just so beautiful, and I just thought it was done very well. Braving the Wilderness, I also thought was done well. This is by Brene Brown. I will say there were some things that were missing for me that I feel that BIPOC women could fill in those holes. But overall, I do think that this was a good book to read, like a self-help book to read. Going back to The Blacker the Bear, again, another Black classic that was just great, you know, and it was definitely giving 5 stars. The main character I definitely got so frustrated with. And this is also a passing story, those of you out there who like reading passing stories. The Ghoul Next Door also left no crumbs. I thought this was done so well, and understanding like how you can make friends in the most unlikely places and what it means to be a friend, and just really having your friend back. And I really love that. Arusha in the End of Time. I am truly enjoying this series. It's becoming my favorite series of the Rick Riordan Presents, second to or in the same vein as Tristan Strong, sorry. So I've definitely appreciated both of these books and for what they're doing. You know, Arusha is talking about, you know, different Indian cultures and what's going on there and what it means to be like a female hero in a child form, and banding together to find other people who are like you to help you save the world. So I really like this one. This book is called All the Bright, I believe. It could have had another name, but I can't think of it right now. And also my little box is so small that I can't see it. But this was by Jason Reynolds and Jason Griffin. And it was a sad story. I'm not going to lie, police brutality and social justice issues tend to not be uplifting, but it was very much needed. And I did appreciate the different mediums that this was written in. It kind of reminded me of House of Leaves, even though I have not read House of Leaves. But when people talk about different mediums inside of that book, that is what this book is doing too. You have different mediums. Some things are, you know, in black and white. Some things are written, you know, this way, that way, the other way. There's pictures, there's no pictures. It's just a bunch of different ways in which the story is being told. Slewfoot, I'll put Slewfoot in nostalgia, because I do think my younger self would have loved that. When I was younger, I did realize I really loved reading revenge plots. And now that I've gotten older and I've started reading some more revenge plots, I realize now I still like reading revenge plots. So even though I went in it reading it because other horror booktubers were talking about how great this book was, even though I feel like their hype is not what this book is hyped up to be, in my opinion, I still really enjoyed it. And I wanted more mayhem to happen in this book than what happened in the end. I wanted mayhem to start at like chapter 2, and I didn't get it until probably the second half of the second half of the book. I'm gonna put the love songs of W.E. Du Bois, and I'm gonna put some question marks here. There are reasons why I won't talk about certain reasons of why this book was very hard for me. However, I do think that if you are someone who is still unsure about the bloody history of the United States, of white folks against enslaved Black folks and indigenous folks in this country, this is a good book for you to read for that. My biggest critique of this book is that there are chapters of explicit sexual violence against children. I just didn't think that those chapters in their length and sometimes in their descriptions needed to be added to this book. And that's just my personal thing. But overall, I felt this book really, I connected to it pretty hard. There's one character named Aisley, and y'all know I don't remember characters' names, but there's a character named Aisley who really, she still to this day did things that tug at my heartstrings, and she did things that I was like, girl, you go, you tell them. You tell them not to come for you, okay? You tell them not to come for you. A Master in the Gin was just so great. Like, wow, P. Djeli Clark, I just need to read more of your books. The same with Mapping the Interior was such a great book. This is Stephen Graham Jones. I'm putting that also in the No Crumbs section. Heads of the Colored People, I just want to take some time to talk about this book. I did not realize how funny this book was going to be. I don't often gravitate to books that's going to give me humor. I'm like, I want gore, you know, whatever. In my books, I want a true mystery or a thriller or horror. But in this book, it just was very interesting. The format, and just, there was a section about these Black women exchanging emails to each other, and the level of pettiness in the emails just still set with me today, and it was just hilarious. So I'm gonna say No Crumbs When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, only because I've read it 3 times. And the first 2 times I was like, I should connect with this book. And that happens with me with a couple books. It's like I feel like there was something I didn't get and I have to immediately reread it. So I reread this one 3 times. The House on Needless Street, I would say it was meh, only because I felt like the book was doing too much too fast. Far Sector is a comic that was written by N.K. Jemisin, and woo-wee! Great, wonderful. The Verifier is also nostalgia. It's about a young sleuth who is trying to figure out, what's going on with this dating site or dating service that she works for. And to be honest, I thought it was hilarious. Rumina, I'm going to put for questions. It's a Junji Ito horror manga because I felt like there were just things that were missing. The main character, Rumina, had no voice, and was that done purposeful? I don't know. I just felt like there were some things missing. Question mark, I'm going to put The Series of Unfortunate Events. I think there's 13 of these books. I was trying to read them originally with nostalgia in mind, and I found out things about Lemony Sticky. I just can't look back. Even though I have half of a vlog already done, I don't know what to do, and I just stopped reading them. So that's what happened. Apollo, up here I left No Crumbs because it's one of my favorite series of Rick Riordan's, which is The Trials of Apollo, and I think we read either the last book or the last 2 books this year. Now I'm over here still missing Apollo and his funny jokes. The Cornerstorm is a book that we read for the crime readers of color. I'm going to try to put the email of the crime readers of color in the description box below, so that if you want to be a part of it, you can definitely come and hang out with us, and we do monthly book picks. And for July, the book pick was The Cornerstorm, and it's about this woman, I think her name is called Mambo Reina, and she is, living in New Orleans. She's a transplant to New Orleans, and she is just trying to figure out what's happening to people within the voodoo community. So I just thought that the way that this has been set up was done really well. I just think she's an amateur sleuth, and I truly love an amateur sleuth moment. As you can see, Nancy Drew is in the nostalgia area. Also the Verifiers, and now again the Cornerstorm, which are all just amateur sleuths. Again, it's a no for me. This is A Study in Pink, a Sherlock comic. It did not give. It gave word for word from the TV show, which I did not know, so I said no. Bitter was a great companion to Pet, and I'm gonna put Left No Crumbs because I truly enjoyed Bitter a lot. Like, it was very, very, very good to me. The Book of Accidents, I'm going to put question mark because I don't even remember what happened. Velvet Was the Night, I'll put meh, only because there were some moments of this book that I felt like I cannot recall what they were. But the book was still really good for me. Like, I had a good time reading it, like I did have a good time reading Maiden. However, which making me not want to put this in the question category is because I just really feel like Sylvia Moreno Garcia, the way she writes things, how descriptive it is, it's just really good. Like Tananarive Due, Brandon Massey, N.K. Jemisin, those are authors I go to when I just need something written in a descriptive way that is just so good to the plot or to the characters. And Sylvia Moreno Garcia is one of those authors for me. Moth was also nostalgia in the sense of like the different stories that was told. And this just felt very homely for me. It felt very comfortable. And I enjoyed that book more than I thought I did at the time when I had to think about it more. It's another Nancy Drew. I'm going to put in nostalgia. The Best We Could Do was also a really good graphic novel about this woman, and she's Vietnamese, and she's about to have a kid, and she's talking about her life, and she's talking about her mother, father, and her siblings, how they got to America, what happened to their families. in Vietnam, and like how the French got involved, how the US got involved, and how everything just got totally messed up, and how that trauma of that still lives in her parents, lives in her, and how she is trying to be a better mother and a better person in spite of her traumatic beginnings that was either happened to her specifically or was passed on from her parents. Afar also left no crumbs because I just kept thinking like, wow, this one is putting me in tears, mainly because just the story, like the art in this was so good, and the story about this girl and her brother and the love that they have for each other was just so top tier, and I really appreciated it. Bayou Christmas Disappear, I'm going to put a question mark near it. I got this book from Vina. There was parts of it that is enjoyable. I thought I was going to get smut, and I got no smut, like zero, not one piece. So I'm very confused. I'm still confused, to be honest. So then the next book was Burnout, and Burnout just was great. It told me like, look, this is what's happening to your body when you don't complete a stress cycle. This is how it sits in your body. This is how you need to deal with your uncompleted stress cycles. Are you resting enough? Do you know that 40% of your day needs to be towards resting or resting activities? So it just was a huge eye-opener of how much rest I need to get to. The Song of Achilles, I'm going to put that, I put this up here in no crumbs as well, because it made me cry. There's no doubt about it. Like, just the spin on it, you know, this is very queer in nature, and I was just heartbroken to the end. Sometimes a Greek retelling really puts me in my feelings. There was times even in, you know, the Trials of Apollo that I really felt for Apollo, and I was like, wow, this is really unfair. And I felt the same way in the Song of Achilles. So shout out to my friend Joseph, who was like, Bree, you should read this book if you haven't already. And I heard of it, I just didn't read it. We got Charlene Harris. I read 7 books, not 8. I don't know, something. I read a lot this year, and it's a no, and that's what I'm gonna say on that. I'm gonna put it in the question. So this is Miss Marvel. If you haven't seen me and Ashley from Bookish Realms opinion on this book, I'll be putting that in the description box below. There will be a lot of things in the description box below, and I'm taking notes so that I remember what to put in the description box below. Miss Marvel, I felt like the comics, I don't know, there was just something about it that I was just like, meh, like it's okay. Like it wasn't super great to me as far as the context. The representation was top notch, but as far as like the actual storyline, I just didn't feel really connected to that. So that is what I would say. And just because I don't feel connected to it, don't mean like, oh, this was a trash comic. It was not a trash comic. I think I'm excited that I read the comics, because now I can go ahead to Disney Plus on a friend's account, of course, and go ahead and watch the TV show. That's going to be me, you know? Persepolis. And I just put it in nostalgia just for a second so I can get it to no crumbs. Persepolis, again, a memoir. It's just, it was everything. It gave me the type of raw honesty as Miles Davis' autobiography. Just that same vein of like, look, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I got no reason to keep no secrets. And I really appreciated that story, even though it was hard and I found myself almost in tears a couple times. I'm going to put a question mark here for Waiting to Exhale, because I did feel like when I was going to read the book, I didn't realize how short the book was, and I really wanted more from every one of the characters, specifically Samantha. So that's what I would have wanted more. I pray to God that they don't reboot this movie, because we need to let go of the rebooting era, right? We need to let that go. It has a strong hold on us, okay? I'm going to go back to Nancy Drew again with another one of her books, The Mystery on the Midnight Ride or Midnight Train. And that was just pure nostalgia. I read books 1 through 9 of Pretty Little Liars, and I put that also in nostalgia. But to be honest, it's anywhere between nostalgia and it's a no for me. It's just a continual predator behavior of the men and the boys of these 4 girls in the book was just, I was vomiting. Paper Girls, I'm gonna put meh, and it's a no for me, but I will put it in the meh volume. I felt that the time elements was just, the sci-fi elements, loved all of that. It just was a character named Mac in the story who I just could not connect with on no level. I just felt like they were just being an a-hole, just really aggressively and being very violent verbally towards other people. And I just really did not like that, which really affected my overall opinion of this book. Saga owes me nothing, even though I would never forget you for issue 56. I'm looking at you, Brian Vogue. I will never forget you for issue 56. Okay? I digress. Saga was very good. I started reading Saga last year with a group of booktubers. I will try to put those live shows or their names in the description box below. Again, we're here with another memoir, Sally Ride, who was a famous astronaut, the first female astronaut here in America. It was just very interesting hearing about her life, you know, trying to see if her and I had any shared similarities, which we did have some. And I also did a video about that, which will also be in the description box below. And like I said, I have a hard time rating somebody's life in their memoir. So that's where that's at. All right. So Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo, I would put as far as nostalgia, because I do think like my early 20s would have really enjoyed this book, because there is so much that could have been learned about Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo, who are all 3 sisters who are really just trying to make their own mark in the world, you know, listening to their mother or not listening to their mom. So I thought it just was a really good book. I'm gonna go ahead and put She Begat, the 20 years of miseducation of Lauryn Hill in No Crumbs as well, because there's just a lot of things I didn't realize about Lauryn Hill and the pressures that different Black communities and worldwide put on her, and how people just pretty much misunderstood her. So reading this book about Lauryn Hill was very informative and insightful. So now I'm putting Spy X Family. I think I read volumes 1 through 7 now. No, 1 through 5, sorry. I loved it. Anya is my favorite character. Anya's mom, who I'm forgetting her name, her brother is my least favorite character, and everybody knows why. No, I'm just kidding. He's just really creepy and I just can't deal with him. But Anya, she's just so cute, little girl, just trying to make sure her family stays together and not trying to let them know her secret. I really enjoyed reading this manga series. To be young, gifted, and Black, famous words to describe Lorraine Hansberry, but also famous words that the late Chad Boseman said as well. And it just was such a good book to get through, and I enjoyed the complex discussion that we had about this book. And I'll make sure I put To Be Young, Gifted, and Black in the description box below, because this was also a book for the Black Classics Book Club. And the final book that I'm going to discuss today is Nancy Drew, which I put in the nostalgia. So it is The Blue Lady of Coffin Hall. Was actually the first book that started me starting to read Nancy Drew. And I do think I have a couple other Nancy Drew that I've read, but I can't remember what it was because I switched libraries and I can't remember which library I read it on. I am enjoying the Nancy Drew Diary series, and then I hope to, you know, get into the original Nancy Drew one day. That is what I have to say about all the books that I read. Thank you so much for watching this video as I talked and probably made a lot of mistakes on pronunciation of things, because, you know, what is the English language? So with all that being said, if you want to see more tier ranking type of videos from me, please put that in the description box below. Thank you for watching and taking time to really listen to me talk about all of these books. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. See y'all later. Bye.